Internet! Time for another episode of ShoutStone. This is Shalthis here, and I'm bringing you another Cockatrice Hearthstone Shoutcast. This time, it is Mage on Mage action, as Lok'tar takes on Lollertoaster. Let's get right into the game. So we are just going to start things off plain and simple. Mage on Mage action, this is going to be really interesting, because lots of potential for secrets, lots of potential for all sorts of stuff. Just going to get started with an early minion. Very lovely battle cry. Unfortunately, it has no bearing this early in the match, but at least it's there. So Lok'tar is going to start off with the coin. He does have that in his hand. That will be probably very handy as we get a little further into this game. Just going to do a quick attack to reduce that minion down to 1 HP. Not much else to see at this point. So as the decks are set and the plays are set, Arcane Intellect, that's a very handy card for a mage deck, and I talk about this so much that I think you all are pretty sick of it, but any card that gives you more cards is a good card. That's all I can say. It is very early in the game, but hey, anytime you have all those options, it's very handy. Lok'tar, going to start off with the hero attack, just to finish that minion off. And he's going to play the coin to throw out the Pint-Sized Summoner. Pint-Sized Summoner, extremely useful card. Very handy effect that all your minions have their costs reduced for as long as in play. However, it is a very hot target as well. Especially by this point in the game, a lot of people will do whatever they can to take that minion out. Kirintor Mage coming out gives her a free secret for Lollertoaster. And as you can see, that secret is going to be Mirror Entity. So the next minion that comes into play for her opponent, or for his opponent, for their opponent, will be replicated for Lollertoaster. Lok'tar with a sizable hand advantage at this point. Just kind of viewing his options, because he does have a bunch of different things. He may want to try to take out that Kirintor Mage relatively quickly. He does know that that secret is there, not sure what's going to trigger it. Could be everything from Ice Barrier. He's going to polymorph the Kirintor Mage and finish it off with the Pint-Sized Summoner. Now the important thing to note about cards like Polymorph and Hex, and any card that transforms another card into something else, and this was actually a cause for some confusion between some players. Regardless of what kind of card is targeted by a Polymorph or a Hex or whatever, once that card is hit with a sheep, or hit with a Polymorph or Hex I should say, that card becomes just a plain, ordinary 1/1 sheep. And that's it. So there's that Ice Barrier that I was actually talking about. So that's a very useful card to have. It's basically 8 free health, for the most part. Did take out the other minion, so the field is clear, but there are a couple secrets in play. So the next minion that goes down will be duplicated, and the next time the hero is attacked. Alright, so that Sorcerer's Apprentice immediately will trigger the mirror's... excuse me, the Mirror Entity. And of course, when you have a copy of that minion, the spell effect, or whatever bonus effect that particular minion has, does count towards you as well. So the fact that that minion, like spells, cost 1 less, will be a factor for both players now, at least for as long as those minions are in play. Now, as I was saying, basically about the transformation type spells, regardless of what benefits or bonuses the minion that is targeted has, it's irrelevant, honestly. Use Fireball to attack the hero, and that will not trigger the secret. And there's a reason behind that. The reason it doesn't trigger the secret is because the word attack is a very specific term. And it doesn't just mean take damage. The only thing that attack means is that a minion has targeted that specific character and has attacked it. So a minion has to attack the opposing hero, or in this case, Lollertoaster's hero, in order for that secret to trigger. So that's a very important thing to keep in mind if you decide to play the Cockatrice emulator, so you're a little more familiar with some of the idiosyncrasies of the rules of this game. But my point being, with the whole Polymorph and Hex thing, as I keep getting interrupted by all these spells, let's say you have Alakir, and he's got all of these great abilities, you know, Taunt, and Wind Fury, and Divine Shield, and everything. If he gets Hexed or Polymorphed, he loses everything and just becomes a 1/1 minion. And then he can be destroyed by anything. But Lollertoaster is going to play that Gadgetzan Auctioneer, use the Apprentice to take out the other Apprentice, and sacrifice it in turn. And the turn is passed, so right now, still a pretty even game. Does have that Gadgetzan Auctioneer out there. For a Mage deck, a minion like that is huge, because your entire deck is going to comprise mainly of a ton of spells. But it ain't going to last long. Using that Fireball, also a very handy card to take out the Auctioneer. Gonna do a quick 1 point of damage. Again, not triggering the secret because it's a hero attack. Hero attacks do not count as attacks, only minion attacks do. So put that in your notes if you're planning a deck. Here's an interesting play. Gurubashi Berserker gets +3 attack when it takes damage, so Jaina decides to attack her minion herself. And that deals 1 point of damage, which is just fine for a 7-point minion, and now all of a sudden it goes from a 2/7 to a 5/6. And she can do that again if she wants, multiple times, and really inflate the attack power of that Gurubashi Berserker. So Dalaran Mage is going to come out into play right now. That gives a +1 to spell power. That's a big thing to consider for Mage decks, is any minion or ability that increases spell power, because, like I said, spells are a big part of Mage decks, so you can really add those up and turn even a Fireball, which deals 6 damage, into a massive bomb of an attack with enough spell power minions and abilities. So it's a big thing to keep in mind. Still lots of mana left to burn. Is going to burn the rest of it. Let's see what he decides to play. A pretty decent hand he's got right now. That, again, is also pretty balanced across the field right now. Going to use a Water Elemental. Water Elementals are very handy, not only in being pretty durable minions at 3/6, but they also have the freezing ability, so any other minion they attack will also be frozen if they attack and deal damage. So that's a pretty nice card to throw out there. Now looking at Lollertoaster's hand, he has a nice 1-2 punch of abilities here. Ice Lance and Frostbolt. Now, as far as Ice Lance and Frostbolt go, you can really finish off a high-value minion by hitting it with Frostbolt, which then applies Freeze, and following up with Ice Lance to deal another 4 points of damage, not to mention any bonus spell effects. So, gonna drop a Blizzard, which will deal 2 points of damage to everything, and apply Freeze to all enemy minions. So, the Dalaran Mage and the Water Elemental are both going to be frozen, in addition to taking 2 points of damage apiece. And there we go, attacking again her own Berserker, which will inflate it up once more, and she's going to attack with that Berserker onto the hero directly. So that's going to deal a nice chunk of damage. Even if that Berserker is killed in this next turn, it's done its job. You know, it got hit twice by its own mage, and took care of business. And that's exactly what you want to do. That's why that minion has such high health, is that it's expected for you to try to hurt your own minion to take advantage of the +3 attack that it gains every time it takes damage. And that's not to say you have to hurt your own minion, you can just use it as it's supposed to be used and let other minions or other heroes hurt it, and, you know, work from there instead. So let's see what Lok'tar is going to play on this next turn. It's going to drop the Flame Strike, which deals 4 points, but it would be buffed up to 5. Now, he unfortunately is pointing it to the hero, but it only applies to minions, so he's going to correct himself there. But that will deal 5 points to minions. That will take care of that Berserker. So, like I said, it still did its job just fine. But, yeah, on that play, again, that's where the spell power bonus comes into play. So this ability, which would normally deal 4, instead deals 5, and you can really add that up. Like, the Dalaran Mage is a pretty low-cost minion. You have multiple minions like that, and there's tons of minions in the game, mind you, that have all sorts of, you know, plus spell power passives on them. So you play your cards right, in the most literal term I can convey that, you play your cards right, and you'll have a stacked amount of spell power. And you'll see that a lot. Even if you just hop on Cockatrice to observe other people play this game, it's a pretty nice way to see some really good players in action. Because the thing about Cockatrice is that you're not going to go through the effort of setting it up and building a deck and learning how to control Cockatrice and how the rules of the game are unless you're really interested in playing Hearthstone. You know, when the real game goes live, we're going to get a lot of people who are relatively new and bad at the game because it plays the game for you, essentially. It plays all the rules. And it is free. Alright, so another Gurubashi Berserker. Frostbolt gets played. It's going to deal a sizable amount of damage to that Water Elemental. Freeze it again. Take it down to 1 point. And the turn is passed. So the Water Elemental can't do anything on this turn, but there is that Dalaran Mage. Not to mention whatever else Lok'tar wants to throw out into the field of play. It's going to drop a Sunwalker. Very nice 6-drop minion. Taunt and Divine Shield. If you're not familiar with the Divine Shield mechanic, it basically negates any damage that you take on one turn. So that minion has to, or one strike I should say, that minion has to be attacked twice before it'll actually start to take any damage. The first attack will neuter that Divine Shield. And of course there are actually cards in the game that will steal Divine Shield as well. There was a Blood Knight card, I believe, which steals any Divine Shield in play and increases its attack power by however much that however many Divine Shields it happens to take. So, with certain decks, you can stack up a lot of Divine Shields, play that Blood Knight, and really kick some ass. So, on that turn, we just had that Dalaran Mage do a little bit of damage to the hero, and we are up to the 10-drop point of the game. This is where it all comes to an end. Still a pretty even matchup, though. The hands are even, the health totals are even. Nobody has a really, really distinct advantage. Lok'tar does have the minion advantage on the field, but that can turn so quickly. I mean, 2 of these minions that he has have less than 3 health, so either by nature or just by the random attack process of it. And here we go, Jaina's just going to finish that elemental off. So now it's just a matter of deciding basically where to go from here. Now the Sunwalker is going to take a lot of extra effort to take out of play because of that Divine Shield. The Dalaran Mage, probably not a huge priority target since it's just a 2/2 minion, but it still is something that needs to be handled with relative quickness. Alright, looks like a 3-drop card going to be coming out for Lollertoaster. It's going to be Frostbolt. That's going to break the Divine Shield. And there goes that token. Alright, so the Divine Shield's broken, the minion's down to 5 HP. Just getting tilted onto its side, I guess, because it's sleepy. When you lose your Divine Shield, you get sleepy. Just ask any paladin. And here comes Ice Lance. Ice Lance will do 4 points of damage because it's a frozen minion. Frozen due to that Frostbolt. And there's that kind of 1-2 punch I was talking about. Alright, Girantor Mage hits the field. Another mirror entity, wow, being played. And now, as you can see, the card advantage is going to Lok'tar. But he is going to attack that Dalaran Mage with the Gurubashi Berserker. And that will take it out of play. Because the Berserker was buffed, thanks to being hit. So the Mage should be gone. Oh, and actually, I'm sorry, he changed. That's right. He didn't change his mind, he forgot that that minion has Taunt. But he did manage to take it out. He took out the Sunwalker. See, that's the thing you gotta keep in mind. Like, I'm trying my best to pay attention to the rules of the game as well. But you do have to notice that kind of stuff. Like, you know, minions that have Taunt aren't going to... Nothing is just going to happen in Cockatrice. You have to tell it what to do. Alright, so Lok'tar is going to play a Cobalt Geomancer. That's another plus spell power minion. And that does trigger the secret. So, looking pretty good. And here comes Cone of Cold. That is an excellent ability. Gonna get buffed up to 3 damage. And it will deal 3 damage to everything out there and clear the field. So, we're looking at pretty low hands for both players, but again, the minion advantage is on Lok'tar. He's going to attack with that Mage to deal 2 points of damage. However, he does still have that Ice Barrier up, which was triggered earlier. So he's still got to whittle that down. Gadgetzan Auctioneer going to come into play. Still has that secret card, which he is going to play. And because that is a spell ability, he does get to draw another card. That's going to give him Fireball, and he is going to... Looks like he's going to play that. I think he's just debating what he wants to take out. Not just straight to the hero, with just the hero attack. Okay, he didn't have enough mana, I'm sorry. Just a straight hero attack. Take the health down a little bit more. Again, Ice Barrier, very useful, especially in a case like this. He can survive for quite a while with that Ice Barrier up and getting another 8 points of armor. Alright, the Water Elemental going to deal damage to that Auctioneer and freeze it. And last point of damage takes out the Auctioneer. Azure Drake hitting the field for Lok'tar. And I think he's looking to probably strike with those other 2 minions on the hero, which will, in fact, if he does do that, trigger Ice Barrier. But the Azure Drake, another high-value minion that does have +1 spell power. And there goes the attack. Ice Barrier is triggered. So it's +8, but he is still going to take 4 points of damage, so it goes back up to 8, basically, because he still had 4 points of armor, even though he took 4 points of damage on that attack. Because the way it works is when the attack happens, the armor triggers, then it takes the damage. So the damage is not negated, it's just absorbed by the armor. Pops that Ooze, and does another point of damage to Lok'tar. Going to play Fireball, and hit for Fireball. So that is going to be a raw 6 damage. Things are starting to look pretty good for Lok'tar, but he is an empty hand right now. However, his opponent is only at 3 cards. That's still more options, so I can't really argue that, and there's a significant amount of minions in the field for Lok'tar, so not going to count him out yet, of course. I've seen players come back from literally 1 HP. You have too if you've been watching all my videos. So we know that that happens. Alright, another Dalaran Mage hits the field. Has another +1 spell power. Going to be bringing out, playing Cone of Cold again. That will be adequately inflated. I think he was just trying to apply that will do spell damage. But yeah, it's more than enough. There was at least 1 minion out there with +1, so that was more than enough to take that Auctioneer out there. And here comes our big round of damage. The Mage. Everything is attacking all at once, so there's a lot of damage to go around. Eats up the rest of the armor and a few extra points of health. So Lollertoaster down to 10. And now playing Ice Lance, getting the buff of +4 spell power. And doing another 4 points of damage. So there you have it. Not a frozen... The hero wasn't frozen, so it only did the 4 points of damage, but things are still looking good. But I think he knows his time is up, so he's polymorphing himself and hitting himself over the head to GG. You can't actually do that in the game, but you can do shit like that in Cockatrice. So there you have it. That's going to do it for this Shoutcast. I hope you enjoyed the game. Fun mage-on-mage action. Good times. We'll be back tomorrow with more Hearthstone videos, as we always are. If there's anything you'd like to see, or any games you'd like to see me try to cast, I'll try to find them on Cockatrice before the beta launches. And, yeah, that should do it. So please, if you did like the video, go ahead and click that like button. Subscribe if you want to catch these videos every single day. You can also follow me on Facebook and Twitter. Links are in the description below. And please, if you want to help support the show, click that little link at the very top of the description that says Become a Patron, and at least see what it's about. No obligation to click the link. But thank you very much for watching, and we will see you next time.